Okay, it's 6 o'clock. This is the October meeting of the Woodlands Water Board of Trustees. President Lux is missing. I'd like to call a roll. Ron Lewis, Vice President here. Kyle Mays, trustee. Paul Martin.
Here.
Martin McIntosh.
Here.
Neil Gaynor.
Here.
Dan Price.
Here.
Ted Stanley. Missing David Smith.
Here.
And Hugh Connor. Here. And another, we don't have a representative from Mud 60, so we're missing two folks tonight. Like to do the pledges of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one nation, under God, one and indivisible.
Paul, would you lead us in an invocation, please?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day here in the Woodlands. Help us to guide us in our deliberations this evening and at all times for the best interests of our constituents. Look over all those in need due to the pandemic and current financial situations that many are facing. We pray in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks. I don't see any public, so I don't expect we have any comments from the public unless somebody's got one secondhand. Move on to the consent agenda. Covering the minutes, the financial reports, and the quarterly investment reports. Anybody have any questions on any of the above?
I move to be approved.
Consent agenda, okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7. SJRA Division Report.
Good evening. On the topic of the strategic plan, I do not have anything tonight except for just a general reminder. November 2nd is the next stakeholders meeting. That's kind of one of the key ones going forward. We're talking about financing, debt service, options, so on and so forth. Next week, excuse me, at the MUD meetings, we will be having the last stakeholder meetings minutes as well as the last progress meeting minutes that are currently not in. More information to come next week, but if you have any questions on the strategic plan, I can definitely answer them. Turn it over to Ed, who's got something.
Regarding the infrastructure funding from feds, we're still waiting to hear if the monies Congressman Crenshaw is pursuing the $3.5 million on Bear Branch Dam. When that will be available, we don't have a date yet. We're told we might know something by the end of calendar year 2022. And then spring detention study, which is the next agenda item. There will be a stakeholder meeting coming up with funding partners to talk about next steps and whether they're going forward with both detention basins or just or done. Any questions?
On items 7 or 8, any questions of it?
Yes, sir.
I do.
Before we talked about getting a waterfall chart for all the capital, so we can see what year it falls in, and we can look at the planning aspect of how much capital each year.
Right.
Wanting, got past budgets now, so we've done that. If we get back on that topic, see a waterfall chart of all the capital projects.
All the capital, we've got a 10-year plan.
That's all the 10-year plan.
So that should encompass everything we've got.
I know, but I guess what I'm looking for is, let's say you have 10 expenditures,
Mhm.
and that spans the
Oh,
10 year. I'm looking to see where they fall each year, each quarter,
Okay,
and understand that. And I'd like to understand, when you get down to the bottom of that, you have, let's say, 300,000 a year, or 400 or 3 million, whatever it is, and how that compares to your capital.
And the
You
R
run rate of
fund,
capital now, so are we seeing a constant rate of capital? Well, we're seeing big bucks in capital. This is why let's do that in every.
and Chris has talked about it prior to you coming on board. So we try to get 6 million over to R&R annually. And then depending on how much builds up between projects, allows us to determine which projects we can move forward with. Those that are not, we still have some 2017 bond funds available. But we can look at it and see what we can do to update.
You put all that time into the 10-year plan. I just like to understand how it plays in terms of, in dollar value.
In about 2 more months, we're gonna start that.
But once you get the, spreadsheet set up, very easy to update.
Let me see what we can do.
Okay.
Nothing with our accounts.
There's no use, looking at projects that way exceed, there's a Christmas tree list.
Well, and like I said, we try and move, if we know we've got a big fund coming, we don't spend the whole 6 million to build up enough so that we can do the next project. Other questions?
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Brian, do you have an attorney's report?
Report, nothing much this month. We're just working with staff on their preferred way of handling turnoffs, notifications. We talked about the fact that we've currently got either hand delivery, which is more expensive, or certified mail, which isn't extremely practical if you're not doing hand delivery. So I think we're looking at some other options. Once we've identified what those are, it will come to you with a proposed revision to the policy to reflect that. That's all I have.
Okay.
To answer questions if you have. And then we're deferring on number 10. We're going to run those through the MUDs next week. We got the revision from Google Drive to the MUDs, and then we'll come back to the trustees. Same division, one policy.
Thank you, Brian. Moving on to item 11, General Manager's report.
Well, thank you, sir. A couple items. I think I reported a month or so ago that I had been approached by the University of Houston Geoscience Department about utilizing some data that they've collected. I call it satellite imagery, satellite data regarding subsidence. They have put together a draft. First of all, I told them the data sounds very interesting and probably could be useful, but the Woodlands Water Agency and our MUDs, do not have monitoring, measuring, and reporting subsidence in our mission and vision. But we do have community partnerships. It's something we like to look at. So if we think this data is useful and worthwhile, we might look at putting together a community partnership where we can share this. They have put together a preliminary PowerPoint. I've asked Neil to join me in looking at that because of his background. And I've also invited Ed Shackelford and SJRA to take a look. So we'll be reviewing that with the University of Houston next week, and then considering whether it's something we want to bring back to the trustees and see if we want to try to create a partnership to get that data and how we might utilize it. I've also visited with Ed about trying to set a meeting date, November, December, with their financial group, our financial advisors, to talk about what we have referred to a few times as a critical infrastructure line item that potentially could be on our retail water bills to cover the debt service on bonds that they would be selling in the future for that renewal. So we're going to be targeting a date to November, December, try to have that initial meeting with that group and see what that number might look like. So we can start sharing that with the MUDs and the trustees.
By renewal, you're talking about the wastewater treatment plant number one?
No, this is more water.
Broadly.
Yeah, the 10-year plan.
Got it.
The 10-year plan.
And who's going to sell the bonds?
The plan right now is for SJRA would sell the bonds.
Yeah, okay. One of the old plans, not the latest one, had 25 million. What are we looking at now?
Well, I think, we don't know yet, but you can only settle up bonds that you can do the construction in a 3-year period, if I remember. So I think we've looked at maybe 40 million, roughly 50 million is something that they could accomplish in the 3-year period. But there would probably be a series of those over the next 10 years.
Because Mud One is considering buying out of the bond as we have done on 2 previous bonds. And on 25 million, that means we gotta have 1.5 million for our percent. So if you can let us know what they're looking at,
That would come out of the meetings in November, December.
good. I don't think we got a lot more reserve.
And I think they're gonna be more than 20 million. Well,
Yeah, okay.
Also, when the Drainage Task Force, if you remember, kind of transitioned into a One Water Task Force. The One Water concept was looking not only at stormwater runoff, but surface water and groundwater and water, as a whole. When that committee was active, we met with Hark on a number of occasions to put together a public information portal that could be used for the public where they could go, one-stop shop, if you will, to learn about water in the region, in the Woodlands and in Montgomery County. Surface water, groundwater, subsidence, faulting might be in there. And that was put on a big pause when the One Water Task Force quit meeting and the incorporation election was active. There was a big pause on that effort. And since then, I've had some discussions with Bob Lux and Neil Gaynor with an interest in that topic. And so Hart has given me a new proposal for creating that portal. And we're going to be talking about that with our committee and maybe seeing what community partners might be interested in joining us in that effort. It's about a $60,000 effort. Before, when it was initially created and talked about, we had Mud 386 participating, we had the township participating, but that agreement and that proposal expired. But I have a new one on my desk that I'm looking at, and we'll be talking about maybe seeing if the same community partners are interested or others in that effort. Before it was Mud 386 and the township had agreed to participate in the fund. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jim. Staff report on AMI. Mike, anything to
We
report?
had a meeting earlier this afternoon with our consultant Amoresco and their installation contractor, Metal Valve. They indicated at the time that they had all the material on hand, with the exception of about 7 of the large 6-inch meter registers. Those have not come in. And they anticipate being completed by the end of this month. All installations, assuming those 7 registers come in. That's the
The other topic is the reimbursement for system damages. We had reported a month or so ago that we had met with TACUS. They assigned a new employee, their chief operating officer, to work with us. We had a good meeting and developed a kind of a path forward, and that has kind of gone stale. They have, that person has failed to respond to some emails recently. I had a discussion this afternoon with the chief financial officer, who is told me he would report that to Hal Brumfield, the CEO, tomorrow. So we'll be seeing how that develops over the next few days, whether how this may play out. We're doing everything we can to avoid litigation in this.
I thought I heard that Pattis Recent, there was.
Yeah, I think there was what happened a month or so ago is they partnered with somebody to get an infusion of capital. But I don't think they were sold per se. They did have another funding partner that they joined with, but Hal is still in place as the CEO. Their chief financial officer, Carter Old, ended up going with somewhere else. And the gentleman that we've been dealing with replaced him, and then the new gentleman that was assigned to work with us was chief operating officer. And I found out today he actually reports directly to Hal. So let's see.
Jim, what's the current balance outstanding in the buildings that we have against?
Yeah, it's over 200,000, but we think if we can get them to come to the table and negotiate it, it's going to be, and that is what the final damage would be. But we need some input from them to adjust our bills.
So Xfinity came through and did the same thing, different route for all their fiber. Did we have damages from Xfinity running fiber like we did from Tacus?
I'm not aware of.
I don't think Xfinity
No,
went
not as
last
bad,
mile.
but-
They didn't come in the neighborhoods, did they?
Yeah, the one in my neighborhood, they
backyard?
came through the backyard. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and those, because they were in the backyards, they didn't do the damage that Tacus did in the front right away.
So they said the difference between the 200, that's our estimate, and you said it might go down because they have a different
No,
estimate?
because
or-
what we did, when we bill them,
That's a
many of
revenue
these
in.
cases were what we call this black poly that is an inferior product that once you damage it, we have to replace the whole thing. We can't just do a patch. So we're willing to negotiate that cost
That's right. Okay.
down.
I think you mentioned that. in
And
the past.
there's quite a few of those.
Okay.
But we need to be able to sit at the table and talk through it.
Yes, it's.
And we've done it.
Blue poly.
Blue poly, excuse me.
So if it's go beyond where they damaged it, maybe that like sections above and beyond, you really need to replace, but they're really only damaged one section or
That's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They still sell blue poly.
No.
That's a problem.
And that company went out of business many, many years ago. It was short-lived. But it was put in a lot of places throughout Texas.
Thank you, Jim. Ad hoc committees, Paul, you had a audit committee.
Just very preliminary, just for the information for the board of directors. We did a quick analysis on the cash position at the end of September, which of course is the end of the fiscal year. And the total cash is 1,064,000. And if you project out the budget and the monthly expenses and so on, we fall within the range of 1 month to 2 months. So preliminary estimates are there will be no cash call from the MUDs, and there will be no refund from Woodlands Water to the MUDs. This is all subject to the final audit by the independent auditors and any unusual adjustments that might be made. It's very unlikely that will happen. But just for planning purposes, it looks like no action on this issue.
Thank you. Paul, can you remind me, I think there was a discussion, maybe in a previous meeting about our auditors, that we're going year to year with them. Is that still the case? I think there was some discussion about, do we want to get a bid for a multi-year project and bring the cost down?
I don't know, that was staff, I think, action. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we had a 5-year agreement that recently expired, and we have a 1-year commitment now. The increase was negligible as far as the cost was, but I think it warrants maybe looking into to see to go to get another 5-year agreement. Yeah, we just didn't have it ready for this year.
Okay, I thought that I was remembering that conversation. I just wanted to.
Back to the cash call. So with the addition of the river authority, how do we see that progressing through this year? I mean, they're still having the non-payment problems. The debt is getting worse.
That's a completely different subject that really should be an agenda item because it would be extensive, but
Yeah, I mean,
And you
with
probably-
the GRP division, I think we're talking about GRP division, that would want to have a discussion about GRP. trustee.
But so,
I'd like to have that discussion so we can see what the future looks like. I don't mean out 2 years, but just a projection out this year, maybe by quarter.
Okay.
And,
is there anything that you're able to report publicly on that?
We're still in litigation.
Okay.
And the number is growing.
And the cost as well.
The amount owed to us is growing.
Correct. The legal costs in total that the taxpayers are funding is growing on both sides of this question.
Correct.
Okay, item 14. The Public Education Committee. That you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
On
all,
this side,
I don't believe any action is required because the table on page 86 here is already out in social media. That being said, maybe discuss an approach to using a weighted average weighted by number of connections to average the bus tax rate. At rates that are used in this table for comparative purposes only to provide a fair comparison with municipalities. I think John will work on that, and that will be updated online as soon as that be great. But no action.
Thank you. Item 15, do we have, I'm sorry, Paul.
On this chart on page 86, does that include the proposed 14% increase in wastewater for the Woodlands on September or January 1st?
Yes.
It is included. Okay, then it says figures as reported on October 3rd. Maybe we should, if that's out in the public, we ought to say including the projected increase on January 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a difference. 14%.
Yeah, the budgets are adopted. It's a matter of detail. The budgets, your adopted budgets, had that in your budget. So that, but we will,
If this is an education tool.
so noted.
Make sure I'm tracking with you. You want to make sure the numbers reflect that, or that the footnote reflects that.
The number is reflected. We just need to make it.
Tell by reading
The
this.
numbers do, but the footnote doesn't. That's what you're saying. Okay,
All right, thanks, Paul.
gotcha.
the way you read this, the total is what? What does that represent in that chart? If I bought 10,000 gallons a month and 6,000 gallons of sewer,
Yeah.
That is correct.
that'd be my monthly fee.
Yep.
And then outside of that would be the tax rate. Tax rate's not in there.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Do we have anything for item 15 and 16, Brian? We will move on to item 17, matters for placement on future agenda. I heard a request. If you would define it a little bit tighter, David.
In terms of I guess there were two topics, they kind of related, but one is the projection of I would say your financial status. Tax flow, yeah, right. But, if we were subject to a cash call, when does it, what your financial condition each quarter? I don't know if you can wrestle that to a number other than the haven't paid, but you obviously have an expense budget goal. You can give us above the baseline or below the baseline type deal.
So far, we've never done a cash flow. If you all.
I know, you keep on mentioning it.
Well, that's a different topic, though. That's a cash call from the Woodlands Water Agency having the MUDs pay so that the Woodlands Water Agency has enough of a monthly buffer as opposed to something with the SGRA.
I think he's talking about hitting Jim, and which Jim would turn around and hit the bus, right?
We've never had one.
I didn't even have one, but it's been mentioned.
Not related to the Woodlands division.
And Woodlands Division during the budget, because before the drought, it did drop down quite a little bit. It got low, and then it got high, so.
Because of the water sales from the summer months, cash, I wouldn't say it's plentiful, but it's in better position than it was.
So the pipeline division.
So are you and you're not anticipating a cash call over the next 12 months or 24? David, does that satisfy your question? Okay. And Hugh, you had a question on the AMI.
Yeah, I just, and maybe this gets done as a matter of course, but given the AMI project is pretty much wrapped up. I mean, I know you got a few things to do. I don't know if you, as a matter of course, you would not actually do a look back on it. And in my experience, we would with a capital project like that to see how did it perform on schedule? How did it perform on budget? There were justifications of why it was done, right? And obviously the benefits of it are probably starting to roll through as you've changed meter reading requirements and resource needs, right? So that's kind of the big topic to me. It'd be interesting, I think, to see how that plays out. People see them, people are getting alerts from them. A lot of people have a lot of response to them. Now, there are some in the community, we had one at our mud meeting, that don't want them in their front yard. So there's another kind of dovetail maybe into that is now that you have automated water meters, do you need a different policy or some kind of policy that all the MUDs should follow for someone who wants to opt out of having that thing in their yard?
I think that's an option.
Well, I don't know, but there's
It's not built into the current system.
right.
So we've had 0 change orders thus to
Yeah,
today.
well, we had someone come to our MUD 47, very clearly state they want it gone. And their neighbors, some neighbors want it gone.
And the reason being,
Because it emits radio frequency waves that are harmful to their health. And so
It's not
If-
ionization level radiation.
I have several technical
Yeah.
papers on the radio frequency that are going to go in your mud packet
Yeah.
for next week.
Yeah.
And it makes a pretty strong argument that you're exposed to much higher, more harmful frequencies on a whole host of other
I would bet,
technologies.
Like the electric utility company.
or the screen in front of you most of the day. I guess there's a couple of things that are dovetailing into this project, and so maybe it doesn't need to come here. I know it's coming to MUD 47. It could be just an FYI and an awareness if these things come up. This has a way of growing, I'll tell you, based on the folks that are tied into this group, okay, that potentially would want it gone. And so I think we have to have a policy or something that says, no, we're not removing it. Or if we did, then we would have to pay. You're gonna pay to have somebody else remove it and get it read. I don't know what that.
They have a problem with their electric meter being moved also, because that's being done the same way.
Listen, don't argue with me about it. I'm just a messenger here. As an engineer, I understand a lot of it is myself, so. I would like to see the project. I think that's worthwhile to look and see how's it going and what's it look like going forward. If that's, I would expect that kind of a project that was put in front of somebody.
Like perhaps as a starter for next month, we could do an overview of what the original project was and the intent and the various points at which we're going to do measurements. And then from then you can.
Maybe after our mode, we can, I'm going to do some personal engagement with these folks to help them understand the reality of the meters. There's a lot of information out there, but that may not matter. And so we can deal with the others as it comes along, perhaps, if it does.
So that's an agenda item next month.
Or just an overview for
Look back.
everybody's benefit of what we started out to do, what we've done so far, and the future measurement points.
And feather that into the system. We already have staff up. It would be a robust.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as we get it.
Thank you.
I know you're forwarding to 147, that literature on the electromagnetic radiation from meters. Can you also include the public education committee on that? We are going to be setting up a Google Forms for that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that would be helpful to make some comparisons, like what is the frequencies and the intensity of your cell phone and other things that emit electromagnetic radiation. So
I
just so
think
people
that's in
can,
the docs, one or
Yeah.
more of the documents.
Yeah.
that would be helpful.
All good.
I'd like to consider an item for the agenda next month as well. Some of you may know, we incur credit card fees every month, every year for payments that are being made by our customers using their various forms of payment. Now, we all have the details, but last year, the year that just ended, September 30th, preliminary numbers are in excess of $530,000 a year for fees spread across 10 months. And they vary obviously according to the number of meters. So I would like to have staff consider where are they coming from? How's it built up? How much water paying and what is the customer paying? And to see if it's equitable, because I'm getting the strong feeling that we're paying for, Woodlands Water is subsidizing people's credit card mileage and points and whatever. So
That's
the
huge.
number is getting,
That's a big number.
and it's growing. So it needs some discussion, I think.
Yeah, there are a lot of businesses that will just charge you an extra 2 or 3% if you want to use a credit card. I mean, it's happening more and more because these things are getting more and more expensive.
So some of the, the things to consider are what are other utilities doing with respect to this issue?
In,
You took an issue with that already, by raising the fee, reading fee.
We did, I'll let Maureen explain it for online payments.
Online only, it was a transaction fee charged by our billing provider. We're gonna split it since we get a payment.
It's not exactly credit card fee, but it's a transaction fee.
In addition to the
Yeah.
merchant service.
So you pay that when you use your credit card.
That's right. The customer pays half of it, we're paying half of it.
And
It's
if you
about
pay by
40
draft,
cents.
well, you pay no fee.
You can use your own ACH or your own bank's website, everything free.
You use your app against checking accounts, ACH?
You can set up e-check, on our website.
And there's no cost to us or you, right?
Well, it
Is there?
would be, yes, the free to the customer would be them setting up their own payment to a utility on their own banks. Because all banks have, a pay your bills site.
Yeah, they have to push that to the bank, put the right amount in. You could pull the amount, right? If you do it.
With auto pay, yes, we don't set them up in-house anymore due to PCI compliance and cybersecurity, credit card safety.
So a third party does that, you're saying?
Yes, our website.
And you get charged for doing that.
Well, we have to pay anytime somebody uses the card, there is a merchant service fee. If they do e-check, it's going to be that transaction fee that we're splitting with the customer.
Okay.
And what about auto pay?
That's what I'm talking about.
How much does that be? Is that just a dollar amount?
5 cents, and we're gonna pass on 50 and then beat the balance. It's not a half and half.
Because like when you compare the auto pay to credit card, big difference.
That's one number I hadn't gotten to yet today, so I'll be trying to get that number.
I mean,
People that know automatic payments versus single one time,
right.
yeah, I'm
I
gonna.
mean, I look at it this way, I do auto pay. And it's just it's a nuisance to have to check every month, but if everybody's costing the same, then we don't need to mess with it, but if there's a substantial difference in your credit card versus auto pay, because you have to pay in some form.
Right.
You gotta mail a check in, you gotta go to the website, put your credit card in. So
With my banking system, I can set up an auto pay, but then I still have to go in each month and tell them how much.
With the amount,
If it's a different amount each month.
This will be.
we'll talk about automatic withdrawal.
Right.
That's what I use. You decide the amount, you just take it out. The fee.
I do that on my car payment, but I know what it
That
is.
water payment, I don't trust that.
Well, the water payment is gonna vary every month.
I know, but I thought,
If you go into our website, it will know what amount to draft.
right, you just draft it right out of my bank
Right.
account without me,
Tell it I
without any
want
more
it.
commission.
what the bill, the amount the bill is due will be drafted.
Will be drafted,
Yeah.
you tell me that. Like, Jack. Yeah, that's right.
So the discussion is not an agenda item this month. I'm proposing it for next month.
We still need it next month.
Yes.
Okay. Any other items for next month? Any other items for this meeting? Move we adjourn.
Straight and to the point.
Yeah, I think maybe we should put a recall vote for Bob Lutz next month. And you could be the new chairman.
There wasn't anybody here. It was easy. It was easy. There wasn't anybody here tonight. No hot issues.
Yeah.
Before you leave.
Yeah.
All of the system, they just take it out. It's the fees. That's what we have.
David, I think you guys were talking about each other. So you're saying you have to put the amount in each month for an
I don't know, I don't know.
ACH.
I'm assuming payroll was down under your.
Must understand how it's constructed and how it's currently working. Definitely guide people.
Yeah. Or through costs.
For the cost.
I think that'll motivate a lot of people.
If we can do it. We can't do it in television.
Kind of raising the bar there.
We've been, we're kind of a personnel committee along with Bob Lutz, and we've been meeting with the candidate who's potentially taking over. Yeah. And so I think we also think he's a good candidate.
Aggie.
Billion here, billion there.
Yeah.